go hand in hand. People say life is spiritual, but they are not sure of the word precisely, because it is true, life is spiritual. And that is why in Romans 12, verse 1, the Bible tells us, for this reason I make request to you, brothers, by the mercies of God, that you will give your bodies as a living offering, holy, pleasing to God, which is the worship it is right for you to give Him. Amen. And let verse 2, and let not your behavior be like that of this world, but be changed and made new in mind, so that by experience you may have knowledge of the good and pleasing and complete purpose of God. Last Sunday I just briefly said about the purpose. Our purpose is not only living and dying. Physical. We know that sometimes you have been in a strange area. Ushawahi tembea tu hivi na mahali hapo hujawahi enda tena, but unafikiri ushawahi kuwa hapo. Ama ni mimi tu nishawahi hivyo. It happens, This times back when I was in China, nilikuwa nafika mahali naona hapa nishawahi kuwa. And I've never been there. That tells you how God has created physical and spiritual to go hand in hand. And it is a timeless, but Satan, in his own way, had a way of disrupting that, And that is why we go back to the book of Genesis 6 and see how Satan was able to disrupt that. 6:4, Genesis 6:4. There were men of great strength and size of the earth in those days, that after that, when the sons of God had connection with the daughters of men, they gave birth to children. These were the great men of old days, the men of great name. And the Lord saw that the sin of man was great on the earth, and that all the thoughts of his heart were evil. And the Lord had sorrow, because he had made man on the earth, and grief was in his heart. What is happening in this Genesis 6:4? Sons of God. They are coming into daughters of men. And this is when we find that there will be giants be born on the earth. And these giants, these are creatures. These are creatures. How did these creatures happen? Hawa watu walifanyika namna gani? Let us go in the book of Jude 1. Jude 1. So that we may be able to go faster. The morning is not as big as the main service. So let us run to Jude. Who is in Jude? Jude 1. Okay. Verse 6. And the angels who did not keep to their kingdom, but went out from the place which was theirs, He has put in eternal chains and in dark night till the great day of the judging. These are the angels that came to the men, and they joined, and they had sexual activities, and they bore children. These children were called who? Nephilim, Kuna majitu yalizaliwa na mtu na malaika, wanaitwa Nephilims. These Nephilims were big people, but they were born of what? They were born between believers and non-believers. Because these angels were the angels that fell down with who? Satan. See here? So they are the ones that came to corrupt the spiritual nature of man. See here? They are the evil spirits that came and had children with a man who was spiritually well. See here? So they were able to give birth to demons. They were able to beget demons' offspring. See here? Alafu hawa angels, in the nature of an angel, they are not supposed to have sexual activity. They are not supposed to marry. See here? They are supposed to be just angels. And these are not just angels. They are not clean angels. They are those angels that had fell. See here? So in that place where they had to do this sexual immorality, that place was called Nephilim. Were born in which place? I'm not remembering how it is called. Is it Bashai? Yeah, they were born in an area called Bashai, in a mountain, the mountain of, up to today it has a name. The Bible has, let me tell you, today it is called Caesarea Philippi. It is an area in Israel whereby these activities had to happen, and this place is the place where Jesus Christ went in the wilderness. That wilderness is called Caesarea Philippi. Yeah? That is why I'm talking about a physical world and a spiritual world. This Bashan, where it was called a portal of demons. That is what Israelites used to call it. If you have a pen, you can note some points, because history is very difficult. Kushika na kichwa bila kuandika, sivyo? So this place, spiritually, it was defiled. Spiritually, that is where the demons were born, sivyo? Huko ndiko majitu walizaliwa. And so, let us go back to that place, sivyo? So, they bore these feelings, and these feelings, God decided to finish them. Mungu aliamua, wakati alikasirika, akaamua kuwamaliza, sivyo? How did God finish them? Aliwamaliza na mvua ya nani? Ya Noah, sivyo? And when this flood came, the flood, so God finished Nephilim with a flood. See there? But after the flood of Noah, what remained? Noah and family. See there? Na ark. Why the ark? Because the ark is an image of Jesus. That is why we always say life is about one and A and B. There will always be two in life, because there is a spiritual one and a physical one. Kuna yenye unaona na ingine huoni, sio? So this world was defiled. This area was defiled. So God knew that now that humanity has been defiled, He had to give a limit to the demons, sio? Because now there is no offspring of a demon, sio? The Nephilim, those big giants. So He had to bring a flood, and that flood wiped out all of them, and they died. But even after the flood, we are seeing Goliath. Where is Goliath coming from? Because Goliath must be one of these offsprings of these angels. Because he was not like a normal human being. He was a tofauti. So that there are some that made. And that is when we call ourselves to a meeting and ask ourselves, this flood wiped all of them. Where did Goliath come from? So, did they all die? Ama, kuna spirit libaki, they wouldn't be locked in the same place. Unajua, Because you see, the Bible in Jude is telling us after they did this, they were locked up. Where did they get locked up? For sababu, when you look at the Nephilim, now they have a human body. So they are not like completely angels. Where the angels were locked, these people could not be locked there. Because they are not of the same spirit. And that is where we come and ask ourselves, where did they go? Where were their spirits? And that is why the Bible is trying to tell us. It is talking to us about it. Let us open the Bible, 1 Chronicles 20. Sometimes it is good to know that things just don't happen. Things happen because God has a good plan. This is a plan of the devil. Because the devil knew if he corrupted man, and man gave birth that way, it will be hard for another plan to come. Because the devil knows God will not just sit around and see man perish. And the devil knows that man is loved by God. Because even when he was removed from the throne, the cherubim, he felt like man is the one who is taking his place. He felt, how can God create man with his own image and give him Eden? A place where all spirits could maneuver freely. So the devil in himself has an envy of a man. He is feeling envious. And so he wants to corrupt what God has put pure. And that is why he will not rest unless he sees that man has reached a place where he can hold him. That is why he wants to breed with man. He wants the angels to breed with man, so that God will not have a good plan to purify man again. You see? And that is why God, in his wisdom, is finishing the world with flood. Because the world is already corrupt. There is demons that have been bred. So these breedings lazima ziishe, so that hapo mbeleni atafanya nini? Atazaa. Because the son of man is a seed, and he must be born. And in this physical world, it is corrupt. Let us put our minds that it is already corrupt with the Nephilim. But God, in his own way, Chronicles, who is there? 1 Chronicles 1 Chronicles 20. 20. Verse 4. Now after this there was a war with the Philistines and Gaza. Then, is it so? These are the words of the Philistines. So, if there was war, God. There were streets of the 8. These are, he's describing those wars, and at the end, these were of the offspring of the Rephaim in Gad. They came to the death by hands of David and his servants. You see, so there were those that remained. The Bible, ukifuata hapo mpaka 8, utaona there were those that remained, but David was able to wipe them out together with his servants. So they were there. The Bible is showing us evidence of these giants. If you go to 2 Samuel, you will also see an evidence of these giants. But God had a way of putting David at war with them, so that he will help him to wipe them off. Because if they remain, they will not be a pure breed, and will not be able to continue bringing purity in humanity. And the plan of God is reconciling man to himself, so that he may give him that pure purity that he had given him in the beginning when he had created human. So in 2 Samuel 21, 15, and the Philistines went to war again with Israel, and David went down with his people. And while they were at Gob, they had a fight with the Philistines. And there came against David one of the offspring of Rephaim, whose spear was 300 shekels of brass in weight, and having a new sword he made an attempt to put David to death. But Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, came to his help, and turning on the Philistine, gave him his death blow. Then David's men took an oath and said to her, never again are you to go out with us to the fight, so that you may not put out the light of Israel. Now after this there was war with the Palestinians again at Gob, and the Shibeshai, the Hushathites, put the death shaft on the offspring of Rephaim. No, the Bible is continuing to show us. You read up to 22, and you will see that the Palestinians. That is where there were so many giants. Those are the people who David really dealt with, and God gave him power to be able to kill most of them. And that is how these offsprings of the Nephilims, that is how they were able to be wiped out. But even if you wipe everything physically, spiritually, there will always arise something, yeah? And that is why God knew there was something big to be done, yeah? And that is when the people also wanted to reach Him. How did people gather together and want to reach God? They just had to do the Tower of Babel, yeah? In Genesis 11, yeah? Unakuta the spirit, yeah? The spirit bado ilikuwa ndani ya watu, because we have said they could not be kama Jude venye anatuambia those angels walifungiwa mahali. What about the spirits of these people who had been born? Even if they died, they were hovering around. So they were able to one time in sometimes they were able to be in people and also order people to do things that were against God. So they were able in Genesis 11 verse 1 to 3 to go and try and build a tower. Genesis 11. This is just the offsprings of the evil. When you see Genesis 11, that is when God saw these people have a common language, and that is why they are able to speak one thing and they are able to do it. Why? Because they speak of one. Wanaongea lugha moja. Kwa hivyo ni rahisi sana kuelewana na kufanya kitu. That is when they started to build this tower. And when they brought the bricks and they started to put them together, and now they were feeling that they will get close to God. Kuna ile njia ya mtu unajiambia, and God don't want humanity to go into error. He wants humanity to wait for His plan of reconciliation. Because this is not the way to go to God. Not through the Tower of Babel. Not through that way. But God wants to come Himself and deliver them, because there is a sin that has to bring a sacrifice. And this sacrifice is Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ cannot be met where He is by man. It is Him to meet man. So He gave them a confusion of language. That is how He was able to reject man's doing this. Let us read in Genesis 11. And all the earth had one language and one tongue. And it came about that in their wandering from the east, they came to a stretch of flat country in the land of Shinar, and there they made their living place. And they said one to another, come, let us make bricks, burning them well. And they had bricks for stones, putting them together with the sticky earth. And they said, come, let us make a town, and a tower whose top will go up to high as heaven, and let us make a great name for ourselves, so that we may not be wanderers of the face of the earth. You see, when man has their way, it is their way. And you see in verse 4, they are saying categorically, let us make a great name for ourselves. So this spirit of Nephilim is in them. It wants to be seen, it want to be known, yeah? They are making a name of themselves, and that is not the will of God. The will of God is that man will be reconciled to him through a sacrifice, a seed. See here? So, the work of the devil here, Satan is at work. He is trying to remove this seed. He is trying to corrupt this. He don't want the plan of God to come to pass. And with this, when Satan sees them do this, he feels like he's winning. See here? He feels like he's on the right track, but he don't know God has a plan. He don't know that God has a plan. And that is why in Deuteronomy 32 verse 8, he will start them into nations. And these nations, they will be 70 nations with 70 rulers. Now they are not being guided by God. They are not being ruled by God, but being ruled by rulers of 70 nations. And that is how God was able to win. Because now these people cannot be of the same way. They cannot be of the same ruler. They cannot be of the same city. Now they are put in different cities, and in their 70s, they were able to be led by their own rulers. Where now Satan cannot have a common plan, you know. Satan is not omnipresent. He is not like God, but he can be everywhere. He will be in some place and in some place in another time, you know, and using his demons. And that is why Nephilim was a plan of Satan. It was a plan that this breed of angels and human will never be reconciled because it is not a pure one. See here? So Satan now is plan is like winning. But let us see, what about God? You know, when man is really in his ways, rebelling, these 70 nations, you know, we are seeing that they have idols. Now they have started worshiping idols. These angels are turning to idols. You know, wanakuwa na idol huyu, wanamuita hivi, wanakuwa na huyu idol, wanamuita hivi, sivyo? And Deuteronomy 4:19, we will see that they have ways. Deuteronomy 4:19. Remember, we started with the breed of the demons. So this breed is really, really having its ways. And the Lord said to Moses in Midian, "Go back to Egypt, for all the men are dead who were attempting to take your life." You know, now the plan of God. You see, Satan has his plan, and his plan is like winning. See, because people are really worshiping idols. Wakiita hii angel, wanamuita God of the sun, wanamuita what they call them. See, but every people have their idols. So Satan felt like he's winning. But what about God in his throne? He has a plan. He has chosen a man. See, because his people are not born by demons. His people are not born, and they are not Nephilims. They are people that he himself had sat and said, "Let us create a man with our own image." See, and his fall is bringing upon himself a lot of pain. But what about God? You know? So there is this one God, Pharaoh. Yeah? And God must go to Pharaoh. See, tumejua where tumejua Nephilims, tumejua Nephilims, and tumejua ni watu wenye walizaliwa Nephilims. They were born, tumesema from angels and men, sindio? Wamezaliwa na malaika wabaya, sindio? And human, so they are born of believer and none, so they are not pure. So Nephilims are not pure. So when we see these Nephilims, we know that they are not pure. And we see Pharaoh. Pharaoh is like a god. He's like a god. Because Pharaoh was being worshipped, right? Pharaoh was being worshipped, and there was a symbol in those Pharaoh's states. It's na hizo kofia zao. There was a symbol like a snake in his crown. That symbol was a god, and they used to bow to it. So God has a plan now. He has his chosen Moses. In Exodus 4:19, the plan starts. And the Lord said to Moses in Midian, "Go back to Egypt, for all the men are dead who were attempting to take your life." And Moses took his wife and his sons and put them on us and went back to the land of Egypt, and he took the rod of God in his hand. So the Moses never went without the rod of God. The rod of Moses. So the rod of Moses. Why the rod of Moses? God works in mysterious ways. There is a God, Pharaoh. He has a symbol, the symbol of snakes. So there is the rod of
A-O-H.
Pharaoh.
O-H.
It's good to be in class. I see how we are together. Rod of Moses. So the rod of Moses. What is he doing? The rod of God in his hand. Actually, I'm mistaken here. It's the rod of God, Sometimes we say rod of Moses, but it is the rod of God. So this is where I get excited. Forgetting about the Netflix, forgetting about these great dragons of Ezekiel 29:3. Those great dragons were the symbols of this. Let us see, Ezekiel. When you know the Bible and where you come from and the history. The history of Netflix is wrong. I don't want to bore you with it because it is a big one. And that is why I'm really working with speed. Because Netflix, I don't know whether to you they are famous, but I think they are. I think they are because there are things that have not existed apart from those days. Let us go to Ezekiel 29:3. Say to them, "These are the words of the Lord. See, I am against you, Pharaoh, king of Egypt. The great river beast stretches out among his Nile streams, who has said, the Nile is mine, and I have made it for myself." You see? So God is coming now. His plan is starting. It is starting with Moses. No, Satan is doing all this, not knowing that God has a way. Satan is just limiting God. He doesn't know, even if you bear children with this man, God can wipe them. With a single, he can wipe them like a day. So, in these times of plagues, what happens? Let's see what happens. I want us to be in our mind to come all the way from the Nephilim, slowly see how they brought harm to human, see how they were mocking God, by trying the power to go to him through the towers. That is like mockery to God, And now there is a plan. So, Ephesians 2:2, in which you were living in the past, after the ways of his present world, doing the pleasure of the Lord, of the power of the air, the Spirit who is now working in those who go against the purpose of God, among whom we all at one time were, living in the pleasure of our flesh, giving away to the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and the punishment of God was waiting for us, even as for the rest. You see? So, these people are living with disobedience. That is how Pharaoh is living. Pharaoh is living in disobedience. He feels like the Nile is his, He feels like the rivers are his. He feels that he has everything. He feels that he can go against God. He can be God himself. He feels that I can refuse with these people. So even when Moses is convinced to go and bring the Israelites, Pharaoh feels that I own them. They are my slaves. You are not taking them anywhere. He's living in disobedience. His spirit has elevated himself accept the God, He don't regard God. See here? So he is struck with 10 plagues. See here? Plagues inaandikwa hivyo?
Yes.
Yeah. He is struck with 10 plagues. So I want us to pay attention. See here? Because we are going from plague 1 and we go plague 2. See here? We are going to see these plagues and what they were entailed. And never forget that we are coming out from these people who are born from by angels, went out by the floods, and now we are here. See here? We are here at Exodus, Exodus 9 and verse 14. So, step by step, one time we will talk much about this, about the Nephilims, but let us really focus on this. Because this Exodus is where salvation is starting for all humanity. It is all starts here. So these plagues, we pay attention to these plagues. For this time, I will send all my punishment on yourself and on your servants and on your people, so that you may see that there is no other like me in all the earth. See what he's talking. God is all powerful. God is everything. See, for if I had put the full weight of my hand on you and your people, you would have been cut off from the earth. He's talking to Pharaoh. He's telling him, you are nothing. You are nothing. If I just stretch my hand, I will squeeze you out of your life. But for this very reason, I have kept you from distraction, to make clear to you my power, and so that my name may be honored through all the earth. The reason why God has kept Pharaoh is to show him his power. It is to speak to the world his power. Why? Because people have been oppressed by this Pharaoh. People have felt that Pharaoh is all powerful. They have felt that he is the owner of the Nile. See here? He has been given an elevation by men that he doesn't deserve. But God is here with the 10 plagues. He's speaking to them man to man. I will make you feel it. See here? It's a deal now. So God gives the Nile an oppose. Every time that he is opposing a God. See, so the first plague, he does what? He put blood to the Nile. See, Nile inakuwa blood to oppose what? To oppose what God? Because everything that God did, he didn't just do it. He is opposing a God of Pharaoh that is called Happy. It is called Happy. You see? So he is opposing this God. It is the God of the Nile. He is opposing it by putting on the Nile blood. He's suffocating the Nile. He is showing them, I am no match to you. The Nile belongs to you. Now it is, let me see what you do with the Nile with blood. See, he is opposing it and showing Pharaoh, you are no match to me. See, then he comes with the frog. And I infest with them with the frogs. See here? To oppose which God? He is opposing the God of frog goddess. They had a frog goddess. See here? So frogs were to oppose?
Frog goddess.
Frog goddess. So God is talking to Pharaoh, man to man. He's telling him, I am not like your match. This God, this frog god, what is they called Heket? They call it Heket. So this Heket God, it has been opposed that way. Wanaekwa frogs all over. Ndio mko na hiyo kamchongo moja ya frogs. Ndio hiyo ni kamchongo hata hana uhai. Now I'm giving you live frogs all over. No, God is speaking to him. He's speaking to him step by step. Why? Because God is not in business of negotiating with Pharaoh. God is telling us in verse 16, but for this very reason, I have kept you for destruction, to make clear to you my power, and so that my name may be honored through all the earth. So it is time that God shows himself. his power. He's talking to him in the language that he knows. God will always speak to you in the language that you know. He will speak to you in that language that you know. When Job was knowing that he's all-knowing and he's all-loving to God, God spoke to him in the language that he knew. Every time you want to oppose God, He will oppose you in that place where you are. When you feel that you are so proud and you are so, some people have that education, He will oppose you right there where you feel that your power is. So He comes in there, that plague, and He brings dust. This plague of dust, is God, is coming to oppose a God of earth. The God of earth, they call it Nat. I think G is silent. It is opposing, to oppose this God. See, this God is God or goddess of earth. God of the earth. So they had all these gods, but God had to do something with them. He had to show them that you are nothing. You are nothing. I am God. And you cannot stand in my way. When I come to rescue my people, you cannot stand a chance. Because I have a plan and I'm going to do it in that language that you know. So he sends, one day he's still resisting. Wanatumiwa nini? Flies. Flies also was opposing, It was opposing God of flies, Kepri, sorry. It was to oppose Kepri, They had a god called Kepri, the gods of flies. And so he will still be sent, anatumiwa hizi gods zote. Anatumiwa hizi, what are flies? Easy water, but he still can't resist. And so we go to a plague number 5, which is a livestock opposer. Ndio ilikuwa inaitwa haggle. So God puts livestock to death. Sasa wakati wanakufa, ana oppose the God of haggle. How is it written? It is written Hathor. Hathor. Yeah, this was now a cow. They had made it like a cow, a goddess. Kalikuwa kandama. So when they were all killed, the live ones were all killed, so that to show him, I can also kill even these ones that you see physically. And he still resisted, and they were sent boys. Boys were to oppose the God of Shepherds. Boys. Sasa hizo nazo zilikuwa kuoppose hell, God of hell. They had even God of hell, ambayo ilikuwa inaitwa Shepherds. So he had to show them, unaweza kuwa wagonjwa hata kama mko na miungu ya hali njema, unaweza kuwa wagonjwa. He was really speaking to them in the language of their goddess, because they were fearful of their health. So if their health can be attacked, would they go back to God? But he still resisted. He did go back to God. He still was opposed in that health segment, but he still had to be hard-hearted. He hardened his heart. And so there became the hail. The hail was to oppose the fertility god. The fertility god they called Osiris. The fertility god. So there is no space to write. Kama mtu anaandika naweza spell tu Osiris, venye tunasema Osiris. That is fertility god. They had to be opposed by the hails. And so when they still resisted, an eighth one came. Hii nane ikakuwa ni locusts. The locust was to oppose the gods of the sky. The sky became Turkey ndio? Kukakuwa infested with locusts. And then they were opposing the nut god, NUT. So, after he still resisted, darkness came. When the darkness came, that was the ninth one, to oppose the gods of the sun, because they also had gods of the sun. The sun god they called Re, red. So, if God still saw he was persistent on his stubbornness, he continues and gives death. Death was to oppose the protection, because they had a protection god, Isis. Isis was a god that they really felt that is protecting them. Now they were given death. You know, God will give you that. Because you are continuing to be hard at heart. Sitaki kuelewa. And you know, the Bible tells us that the only way you can get salvation is by receiving, confessing by mouth, and believing at heart. Now they are not believing that God is really mighty. And so they had to go all through these stages so that God will totally oppose all their goddess, so that they will be able to see how mighty he is, how powerful he is, but they still couldn't see. The plague stopped when Moses cried out to God. Because Pharaoh cannot feel. Pharaoh is heartless. Pharaoh has a king. So what did Moses have to do? Moses had to cry out to God. And he cried to God. And God stopped the plagues. So after this, Moses led the people out of Egypt. He led them to he didn't lead them where they were supposed to go, yeah? But he died, sadly. Moses came and died, but after dying, something is interesting is happening again. Yeah? No, this process of salvation is not easy. It is not easy, but God purposes to go that way. He is saying in His word that if you want to do something, He starts to do. But it is good for you to go through a process. Why? Because the process gives you knowledge. The process is something to teach you along the way. So Moses is dying. And when he dies, something strange is happening. No, mwili yake inaanza kupiganiwa. Yeah. The angel, the angel Michael. Ameanza kupigania mwili with the devil. Why? Why is the devil interested in this body? Why is this death so amazing? Why is it that this body inapiganiwa na shetani na angel Michael? Sometimes when I read the Bible, I want to ask myself some questions. Funny. It is written that it is foretold that after this, Moses is expected to come back, because there is 2 witnesses in Revelation, that they will come back to preach the gospel, and they will perform miracles, of which one of them is turning rivers into blood. See that miracle Moses did. So I think this water is what is making his body so interesting. Because Satan feels if he comes back, he will do exactly what he did in Egypt. He will turn rivers into blood. So he is thinking about the plague. So Satan feels that he should have him so that he will avoid his resurrection. So they feel when that comes, it is about the resurrected Moses. So there was that thing of that fight of the body, which is nothing big according to God, because God knows His plan. And so there is Joshua, and Joshua now takes the people in the journey again, and now they continue going. Wanaendelea na safari. So about his body, God kwa Mungu si kitu, because there is a person in him that must take an image, David. God has a plan beyond what Satan and beyond what the mind can think. He has a plan of David. And that is why God had to wipe out Nephilim, because his breed is coming, and the breed of God must be pure. He must be brought in a purity. Yeah? That purity is what is important to God about David. Because David is going to give us the lineage of Christ, and that is where the continuity of this rescue is going to take us to salvation. And we cannot be taken there without purity. See there? So, we say the territory of Canaanites territory. That is where Bashan, the place there, serpent, the place of the serpent. It is a real place, by the way. It is a real place. Even today, it is there, and it is also called the same. Because that is where idols were given, the Canaanites give all manner of idols. In fact, they are very, they were great in giving the idols those sacrifices to an extent that they gave even their own children. When they sacrificed their children there, because it is a place where it was believed to be an underworld portal. So they were sacrifices for demons, and they did so many things there in that Bashan area, where even Christ, when he was living amongst men, he took his disciples there. Christ also took his disciples there, because God believes in a spiritual world as well as in a physical world. So he had to go there with his own power, with his own spirit, so that he will do contrary to what was being done there, because God has a way of redeeming. See there? So if this area is regarded by Israelites a portal of the demons, he is going to return it back to his father, because when Christ steps there, it becomes holy. See there? Because the Gentiles, 1 Corinthians 10:20, the Gentiles did things there that were demon sacrifices, like for demons. So God, Jesus himself took the angels there, the disciples there. And the reason why he took them there was purely 1 Corinthians 10. 1 Corinthians 10, verse 20. What I say is that the things offered by the Gentiles are offered to evil spirits, and not to God. And it is so, it's not my desire for you to have any part with the evil spirit. So it is not in the desire of God for these people to sacrifice these things here. At Mount Hermon is the location where the angels came to meet together with the daughters of men. That is where the breed of the Philippines or Nephilims will happen. So God cannot allow Gentiles to continue giving sacrifices there, because it is not a holy ground. And if you give those sacrifices there, it is sacrifices given to the demons. Why? Because it is where they pray. So it was against God's will. This is where they came together to bring Nephilim's jars. So God will not allow man to continue offering there. So that is why 1,000 years later, after Joshua took the Israel to Canaan, so David comes in. And the first assignment David is doing is to kill Goliath. Because the Goliath had a Nephilim affiliation. He looks like these giants. He might be a descendant of these giants. So that is why God is purposely giving an assignment to David to kill this Goliath, so that he will have wiped them. He will have removed them from the face of the earth. Because God's business is to kill the demons and their ways. He wants to be mighty in this world. He wants to give man his dominion back, and his dominion will only become when he defeats Goliath. Are we getting? Goliath in us, Goliath within us is that thing of unbelief. Because we have seen that Goliath is born of affiliation of Nephilims, and Nephilims are breeds of non-believers coming together with believers. So this Goliath must go. Goliath must die, because he's a Philistine. He is not a Jew. He is not a man of promise. He is something else. So David had to defeat him because of the world of physical. In spiritual world, they are already defeated. But now, physically, they also have to be defeated. Because he is here and he is threatening. See there? He is opposing David. He is telling him, you are coming to me with what? See there? You know, he is demeaning the God of David. He feels he has a bigger God. He feels him and his goddess or gods or whatever, he is bigger than David because his body is bigger and also he feels that this is a boy. See here? So God, in his way, need to finish these people. He must finish them physically and spiritually. So the territory was declared by David. Now Israelites also claiming spiritual territory. See here? The divine enemy has stolen from God. There is that divine enemy that has stolen something from us. And this something must be returned. And the devil in Pharaoh want to resist. But he can no longer resist. Why? Because God has shown him one by one up to the 10th God that I can oppose you. I can oppose you. And I can win in this. We are not a match together with you. And so the same is with this giant. Yeah? The giant must go. The giant is your mind. The giant is your heart. Your heart has a way of opposing. It has a way of being a god of Molech. God that opposes. Yeah? So to stop being an idol worshiper by opposing, allow that the Spirit of God may work for you. Allow that David may be able to beat the giant. Because when the giant is beaten, you are able to come about. See here? The Bible says the Israelites sacrifice even their own babies. See here? To those goddesses. But now, we don't need this goddess to eat our babies. We need this God that is mighty, that can oppose a goddess to take up our arms and to go to battle and fight it for us. That is what God is establishing in David. That is what God is establishing when He's planning the coming of Christ. See there? So God now is taking back His children. See there? Because He will oppose them. He will oppose those territories. Yeah? He will go and oppose them. And He's opposing them where they are. So they don't need to say anything about it. That is why, even when they worshipped idols, the Israelites, God allowed them to go to exile. He took them exile to Babylon. And when He took them to exile in Babylon, in the territory of the enemy, they were able to suffer there. Because they didn't know to worship God. They only knew how to worship idols. And that is why God exiled them in 2 Kings 17 and verse 16. God exiled them to Babylon. Because He needed to talk to this hardened heart. This heart like Goliath. This heart like Nephilim. They need to bow. They need to know the God of truth. They were excited to worship the gods of those territories. But God now have to speak to them in their own language. See there? These fallen angels rebelled. Like them. They just rebelled. See there? So God allowed people to be punished. He allowed them to be punished for decades in Babylon. But He finally brought them back to His holy land, where hundreds of years later, a baby was born. Right? Are we going with the history? Are we flowing with the history? So He allowed them to go back later. See, and now a child was born. Which child? Jesus. See, who will defeat Satan once and for all. He will defeat Satan because Satan has no idea. Now he's been caught. Later what? Out of place. Here, amekutwa hana plan. Because he has used his plan of making people bear children with the angels. Here, and they bore the giants. Alafu akafanya Pharaoh, akuwe a god that was worshipped. Akafanya he helped these people to worship God. But now God has a plan. And he must be worshipped. That is why he's planning the birth of Christ. And Satan has no idea. Satan all this time is feeling like he's winning. But Jesus was the Son of God. And Satan halfway knew that Jesus was the Son of God until he was baptized. When he was baptized, and the dove came upon him and he distinguished who he was. When he introduced him as Christ, as the one who's taking away the sins of the world, that is when Satan was able to know who Jesus alikuwa mtoto wake. You know? Why do you fear Satan? Satan has no knowledge. He has no knowledge. And every time you can defeat him with the knowledge of Christ. You can defeat him with the knowledge of God. Yeah? Because to you, you are loved. God has loved us. God has revealed himself to us. But he has not revealed himself to Satan. He has revealed his own Son. And he has been pleased well with him. And that is when Satan, when he heard how God has been pleased well with his Son, that is when he realized that, kati zangu zimeisha. So that is when now he takes up Christ and takes him to the wilderness. Do you know why he takes up him? And at the very place where he brought the angels. He took him the very point where he brought those angels to breed with human. Akampeleka hapo, and he started trying him for 40 days. The same area. The same area. So it was a spiritual world. So in his spirit he knew this place is a place where that I will do my work. And so him having succeeded to do his work there, he's taking Christ there to try and succeed again to tempt Christ there. But he doesn't know God is God. And he cannot match him. Just like he was never able to match him when he was dealing with the plagues. So it was a showdown between the power of Jesus and the power of darkness in that same area. When Jesus returned, he cast out demons. Why? Because they took me where they bred. Kwenye walizaana, hapo ndio shetani amenipeleka, si ndio? So after 40 days, Jesus comes back. What does he do? The first thing he does is cast out the demons, out of a man, that man who was possessed. So you see how spiritual world and physical world go together. You can never ignore. And that is why we are always told, tame your tongue. Be a person who can have kiasi, because you never know. You never know where you are. If Jesus never knew that this ground that I've been taken, this wilderness that Satan has taken me, is where he bred the demons together with human. He couldn't be alert. But he was alert. He was all-knowing. He knew. This is a ground that has so many demons. This is a ground where they bred. This is where they made Netflix. So Jesus was able to stand on that ground with his own word. And he spoke it until the Rhema word, that defeated Satan. And so Satan wanted to possess him and also control humanity. That was the plan of Satan. But about God, you cannot control. Satan is just a tool. So Satan thought that human reason why he was banished from heaven, and that is why I told you from the beginning, he had an envy over man. Because he felt that man is more. He is more than even angels. He's more than everything. Because he's given an image of God. And that is why he was jealousy of man. Because God loved man. And so he's really trying to put an end to man and God. He wants to separate them forever. And that is why when men fell in the Garden of Eden, the first thing God had is to chase them away. Why? They may not eat from the tree of life. Because if they ate from the tree of life, they would remain in the image of Satan forever. But he had to push them away first, so that they will not eat from the tree of life. So, Satan's reason of putting you with a hard heart of refusing you to receive the gospel, of refusing you to be an upright man, is because he has a plan to take you to himself. Yeah? He wants to dominate, rule over you, and also rule over animals, because that is what God gave above to man. That is what made man more than the cherub. See here? Because he was to dominate, he was to rule over. See here? So God take human race back to himself by giving a sacrifice that is forever. He is giving back the power. He casts out demons in Luke 10:17. Jesus is here to not only claim back Israel, but all races and nations. The 70 that was printed here was the same number of nations that who God divided from angels. Unajua, unakumbuka venye walitaka kujenga the Tower of Babylon alafu akawadivide into nations. Now those nations is bringing back. He's giving them the divine nature. He wants to join them again together. Because Satan felt like he's working among them. Now he wants to claim them back. And he wants to show Satan, I can be powerful even in your grounds. Even when you are possessed. Now I possess it and give it back to my Father. Because that is what the power of domination that God wants man to have. He wants joy back to man. He wants man to subject demons under their feet. He wants man not to fear demons. Because Satan has a plan that you may fear him. He has a plan that you may not know God. So Satan now has started to lose value. After Jesus was created to be the Son of God, to be the one that is taking back humanity to God, now Satan is losing value. And now he has no other plan. His plan now is to refuse you to receive the right gospel. His plan now is him to block the real God. He wants to give you a veil that Christ came to remove. He wants to give you his lies, the lies that God came to give you the truth. He wants to reverse and delay your salvation. That is why many people will not receive, because they have given that delay. Satan has a way of delaying them. So Jesus, we say, took the disciples to that point, to Bashan. The Bible says he took them to that bottle of demons, the Bashan. And this time, tulisema inajulikana kama Caesarea Philippi, known as the gates of hell. Hapo kunajulikana kama gates of hell. But Jesus took his disciples there because he wanted to give a sacrifice. He wanted to show the demons that I am the great sacrifice. Whatever was given here was sacrifice to demons. But this sacrifice that I'm giving is holy. It's a sacrifice that is ordained by God. It is that Lamb of God that has no blame. So, he stayed there. That is where he preached. Jesus preached in that Caesarea Philippi, that place. Akahubiri akasema namna gani? He said in Matthew 16:18. He said that he is going to. He said Jesus arrived here and said he will build a community of followers known as a church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. Let us read Matthew 16. Who is there? Matthew 16. Matthew 16:18.
Matthew 16:18, 26. 17. Jesus answered and said to him, "Blessed are you, Simon Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. Verse 18. And I also say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it."
Amen. You see, the same place where the demons prayed, kwenye walizania, hapo ndipo alisema ati I will build a community of followers known as a church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. You know, gates, when you think about gates, what comes to you? Gate is a defend. Gate is made to defend. See, hii gate ya hapa church imetengenezwa defend whatever is inside this compound. See, so that nobody can enter and get out like they wish. But the gate is Jesus. See, no, sometimes when you think about the Bible, it is so interesting. See there? It is so interesting. From those demons up to now here, now a community of followers. And this is speech of Jesus Christ. And he's doing this speech where those demons were praying. See here? So this church is you and me. This church is you. The community that is he is building is me and you. And so we are a big thing. Because this is the first preaching that he's doing, and he's referring direct to me and you. He's saying that, you know when he hiked to Mount Hermon, when he hiked there, he met God the Father, see here? And you know the Father is the God, see here? He met God the Father, and now he gave him what is rightfully his. That is where God gave him what is rightfully his. Because in Mount Hermon was the breeding ground of Nephilim. So this is very interesting in the Bible. This Mount Hermon is a very interesting area because this is where they prayed, where Satan wanted to start his community. But now it is the place where God has finished this community of the demons, and now he has taken up a community that is the church. And now he's giving it power to go and dominate. See there? So Satan had only one plan left. Kuua Yesu. Plan yake ya mwisho ni kuua Yesu. But do you know that is the plan of God? It has always been the plan of God. And Jesus has allowed himself to come and die. See there? But when Satan thinks about killing you, he feels like it's a winning way. But it is the plan of God that he must die because God wants him to reclaim back his people. Jesus had only come to die. Yesu hakuwa na biashara nyingine. Alikuwa amekuja tu kukufa. Lakini lazima angepitia those processes. Because this demon had passed through those processes. For him to reclaim back his people back to God. So that he may be able to give them back to God when they are free. He had to do that process. For a few days, Satan felt like he had won. See here? Until the stone was rolled away. Unajua Yesu wakati alikufa. Sasa Shetani akajua imeisha. But only 3 days, the stone was rolled away. And when it was rolled away, he had risen. And now Satan has known humanity now are in good place. Kwa sababu he has not only beat Satan in his ground, he has now beat the underworld and the darkness, and now he has come back as a defeating Christ. He has come as Jesus Christ, who has defeated death, and he has mocked Satan at his place. He has now won the battle, and for the first time, God's Spirit could live inside and within human heart forever. You know? So now the Spirit of God is dwelling. It is no longer that Spirit that was coming and going. It is now living in our hearts forever because Christ has risen. And the sacrifice was only one. The sacrifice of him dying to redeem us from the Satan's plans. So God redeemed heaven and earth. Each of you has a right to be called a son of God, bringing back the Eden, a place of rest in Jesus Christ. Amen? Are you happy with the history of today? That was pure history. History is never easy. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. I will go up to there. May God bless you.